Hey there, Film Buds. Welcome back to the Film Buds podcast. I am your host, Paul.
And I'm Lauren.
And if you didn't know, it's March. And and with March, not only comes a new theme for the show, but also we're currently in Women's History Month.
Woo!
Congrats, women. Happy birthday.
I don't think that's what it means.
So we decided to, in honor of Women's History Month, you know, if you subscribe to the newsletter, which you should, you already knew that this was going to be an entire month dedicated to women in film. Pretty much all month long, we're going to be looking at, in particular, women directors. You know, women have been a part of the film industry in a lot of different ways. But we decided that we would try and really hone in on women who sat in the director's chair. And so we're going to kind of go all over in terms of topics and content, but it's all going to be, you know, a big celebratory month for women in the film industry. Dear, are you excited for it? What are you looking forward to?
Am I excited for it?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess. It's especially since we're focusing on women directors. It's a harder find. You know, like you said, there have been women in the film industry basically since the beginning of it, whether if they've been on screen itself or behind the camera. But having a woman director, the director's chair is such like it's basically like the president of the production. Like you get to make all the shots, you know, you can pretty much do whatever you think is best. And like, yeah, of course you've got people who come in and give their personal opinions about how it should go. But for the most part, like, you know, you're God. And so it's so rare for females to be in that position of power in, you know, in a production. So I'm excited to see what these women directors bring forward. We've had a few women directors throughout our stint on the Film Buds. But like it's gonna be nice to have a whole month dedicated to the gender that I associate with. Huzzah!
I mean, you're absolutely right in terms of it not being a particularly especially the title of director being not something that has been especially in Hollywood and in big movies and stuff like that, you know. There's a long history that's very, you know, rich of women directing independent films, but as far as like big studio films and things like that, and Hollywood productions, it's pretty rare. For a little factoid that sort of highlights how rare it is, across the 93 Academy Awards that we have had, only two female directors have ever won for Best Director.
Well, then there we go. I think that just made my point. So we filled a whole month with the women, and I think that's, you know, pretty impressive.
Yeah. The two women, by the way, in case you were curious, were Chloe Zhao, who was also the first Asian woman to win, you know, Best Director. And the other one came in 2010, I believe, with Catherine Bigelow's Hurt Locker. Okay. So also they've only happened within the last 12 years. Yeah,
again, you know, it's so strange. You know, you go to school and you learn all of these things about history, and it's a fascinating thing to live through active history happening, and not just like, you know,
big geopolitical events.
Yeah, but like little things, like we having the first, you know, female Asian director. Like that's I can't believe we haven't gotten there already. You know, we keep doing these things, but sometimes it's like it's almost like pulling teeth to get like things that you would assume had happened, you know, before you were even born, and yet here we are, almost in our 30s, and like we're just hitting some bursts.
Yeah.
So that's pretty wild.
No, absolutely. And so, for a little background, in case any of you aren't familiar with where Women's History Month comes from, it actually is in March because International Women's Day is on March 8th. The sort of push for all of this actually goes back to 1911.
Wow.
Yeah, where women's history... International Women's Day was first founded, and it started in the United States. And so there was Women's Day from 1911 until 1978, where a district in Sonoma, California created Women's History Week, starting the week of March 8th. A year later, it had spread out to a few different colleges, in particular Sarah Lawrence, and by 1980, Jimmy Carter had used a presidential proclamation to declare the week of March 8th National Women's History Week. And, you know, it sort of coasted along in that aspect for a year, and then by 1981, a senator and a representative created the Joint Congressional Resolution for History Week, which was then passed. And in 1987, after being petitioned by the National Women's History Project, Congress passed a publication that designated the month of March as Women's History Month. And so, pretty much since then, we've had a National Women's History Month. So it started with just a day back in 1911, and then by the time that you hit 87 and 88, it becomes a full-fledged month.
Number one, that is a long time for... We trudged through history for it to have just been like 40 years ago when they finally got this thing going. And two, I think it's hilarious that they had Women's History Day in 1911 before women had the right to vote.
Yeah, well, and that also kind of does go to the fact that, like, the early part of the 20th century had a lot of women's rights activism, you know, and some of it was also tied up with the temperance movement as well. The temperance movement, for those who don't know, was essentially the anti-alcohol, the alcohol abolitionist movement, was the Temperance Guild, or the Temperance Leagues. And it was largely led by women, in particular, especially religious women.
Which is funny, because Jesus turned water into wine.
Don't you worry about that. And so, yeah, it started out as... both of those things kind of conflated into each other. And so that's also, interestingly enough, when you start to get into the history of it, you know, 1920, both alcohol is prohibited and women get the right to vote.
And I should specify, white women.
Yeah, that's fair.
Got the right to vote.
So that's a little bit of a background on Women's History Month. And our first episode for Women in Film is about two films that actually came out last year. Because I thought that we could go and look at, you know, like a really modern context, and then sort of travel both backwards in time and around the world and into different genres throughout the month.
See.
So we're beginning with Jane Campion's The Power of the Dog, which, you know, if she wins, she's nominated for Best Director, if I'm not mistaken, for Power of the Dog at the Oscars. And
so then she'll be our third.
If she wins, she'll be our third one.
All right, well, here's to hoping.
So we're going to be doing The Power of the Dog, which is a Western that's streaming on Netflix. And we're also going to be talking about Julia Ducournau's Titane, which is a French film. And we talked about it a little bit last week, but it's just such a fascinating movie that we kind of decided that it would be a really good idea to go and give it full attention in an episode.
No, yeah, honestly, not to get too ahead of myself, but like these two movies have like weirdly like similar themes.
I was going to talk about that, yeah.
And I'm curious to dive into that further.
Well, then let's go ahead and jump into it. We'll be starting with Jane Campion's The Power of the Dog, and as always, we have a clip, so let's take a listen.
25 years since our first run together. 1900 and nothing.
It's a long time.
What you doing? Getting mixed up with her.
You are marvelous, Rose. We were married Sunday.
So that was Jane Campion's The Power of the Dog. It is directed and written by Jane Campion. It stars Benedict Cumberbatch, Jesse Plemons, Kirsten Dunst, and Cody Smith-McPhee. And the premise is charismatic rancher Phil Burbank inspires fear and awe in those around him. When his brother brings home a new wife and her son, Phil torments them until he finds himself exposed to the possibility of love.
Wow. I straight up watched this movie without knowing that was the description of this film.
So I'll give a little bit of like a very brief overview on Jane Campion's background, and then you can jump into talking about it.
Sure.
Okay. So Jane is from New Zealand. She was born in 1954. And she's the child of theater professionals. They had their own actor troupe in New Zealand. But partially because of her upbringing, she pretty much rejected the idea of getting into theater or something like that. And so she actually went and graduated with a degree in anthropology. And a year after she graduated college, she went to London. She did, a few other pursuits there. She attended a school there. And she also eventually got into painting.
Oh.
But she started to find painting to be a limiting art form. And so she started to experiment with other artistic pursuits, and she started making short films. And this was in 1982 as her first short film. And so she did quite a few shorts and then a little bit of a TV series, and then she started to direct features. One of her big ones is The Piano, The Portrait of a Lady. And then she also did Bright Star in 2008. And another recent thing that she's known for is a mini-series, or TV show, I guess it is technically, that lasted for 4 years, called Top of the Lake, which had, if I'm not mistaken, Elizabeth Moss, who some of you might know from the 2019 Invisible Man or the show Mad Men, or Handmaid's Tale. And...
Oh, I was like, man, who was she in Mad Men?
Peggy! And so then she finally... read this book of the same name as the film, The Power of the Dog. And she absolutely fell in love with it and snatched up the rights to it and made the film. So, dear, what did you think of The Power of the Dog?
I think it's really funny that they call him charismatic. I think that's number one, the first lie of that description. Because at first I thought they were talking about Jesse Plemons' character, and I was like, yeah, I guess you could call him charismatic. Like, sure, whatever. He's kind of quiet, you know. Obviously, the beta of this brother relationship, because his brother is an entire asshole, you know, just terrible person, and I mean, I guess he can be nice to the people that he wants to be nice to, but those are very few and far between. To the point where he, like, actively starts to belittle the woman that Jesse Plemons ends up, you know, falling in love with and marrying. Well, love is, I guess, a stretch. Marrying. They find mutual partnership in marriage. You know, it's very like well, there's nobody else. You're good. I'll do it. Kind of relationship, because it just kind of happens out of nowhere. But that's not my point. Phil, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, is a complicated man, I would say. I really enjoyed the movie. I thought that the story was simple when it needed to be, and was big when it felt the urge to. I kind of just got lost in this time period of, like, rural 20s America, and I thought that was just such an interesting and underlooked at part of American history, because it really still felt like the 1800s, except for the fact that every once in a while they would dress more 20s, or they would say something that, like, just didn't fit with the previous time period, and it was really interesting. I thought that everybody did a phenomenal job. You know, I think that he's doing a much different performance than he does as Doctor Strange, which is, I mean, I guess not hard, but they're kind of the same. They're kind of just, like, pompous assholes, but, like, at least Strange, like, comes around to the other side and is like, I understand what's wrong with me because my hands are stupid. Whereas, like, Phil doesn't ever do that.
No, Phil does not learn.
No, he doesn't, but he doesn't want to, because he's the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah, so the movie is very, it is slow, but it is tense throughout. And all of that tension comes essentially from the kind of emotional terrorism that Phil inflicts upon everyone.
He's like a hose, just spraying everybody with hatred.
He's just an oppressive force. You know, he's one of those people that that everyone walks on eggshells around, that no one wants to really get on the bad side of, because he is just an incredibly abrasive, demeaning, cruel person. He's really, truly cruel in many ways.
Yeah.
And the whole, you know, idea is that George and Phil are ranchers, and they've both been very successful at it, and Phil goes and does all the manual labor stuff, and George does all of the like financing of it, and the sort of higher up operations of what it means to be a landowner and a ranch owner. But about, like, half-ish way through the movie, maybe more, you finally learn that, like, Phil went to the same sort of nice college upbringing that George went to, and that he's, like, this top-of-his-class, great mind kind of person. And you get little hints of that, I think, throughout, with, like, his incredible musical ability.
Yeah, just prodigy in every way, but also, like, aggressively rebelling against how fantastic he is by rubbing it in everybody's face.
And what's also interesting is he does this whole put-on show thing where he intentionally tries to make himself not that person, you know? He talks with more of a twang than George does, and he plays, in particular, the banjo, you know? And he roughs around with the boys, and he tells the legend of Bronco Henry, and you know, it's this And he even goes out and, like, when he bathes, quote, he, like, coats himself with mud.
And, like, goes and, like, swims in a lake. Even though they've got, like, running water, they've got an indoor hot water tub, like, you know, very hoity-toity for the times in the area.
And so he's over here, like, intentionally trying to remove all of the sort of airs that came with his very privileged upbringing to kind of also come across as this, like, uber-masculine dude. And he's just an absolute prick.
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, when you're fighting who you are as a human being to such a degree that you hate yourself, you're going to hate everybody else around you as well. And I honestly think that he does hate a lot of himself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why he also, like, chooses to, he's a bully.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's that very classic, you know, version of a bully where instead of going, you know, maybe it's my fault, maybe these are my issues and I'm going to deal with them myself, instead I'm going to put my pain onto somebody else to make me feel bigger, better, faster, stronger, you know, whatever, in order to maybe find something about myself that I can enjoy. But at the end of the day, it's always detrimental, you know. Mm-hmm. The more you put somebody down, the more the people fear you, and then you never get to have anybody close to you, so then that makes you hate yourself more, so it's just a constant cycle.
Absolutely. And, you know, with George is perfectly fine being himself. George is totally fine with being George. The thing that he doesn't like is how he knows for a fact that being vulnerable in any way, even to his brother, will open him up for mocking. And
so he ends up just shutting down
all
around
of the time. Because it's easier for him that way.
Yeah, he just stays quiet. He doesn't poke any buttons. He doesn't prod the bull.
Yeah. And so, you know, he knows his brother's triggers, and so he just tries to just not touch any of them.
Yeah.
In any kind of way. And it's a very unhealthy dynamic, and that's also why he's drawn to Rose, you know, and it's a very tender moment when he essentially tells her that he's happy to no longer be alone.
Oh, yeah, that is, but that's why I was like, I think that they both kind of found what they were needing in the other, but it wasn't like a romantic, like, you know, I could never imagine myself with anyone else kind of thing. It's, I guess you have to really think about the idea of, like, it being a small town, there not being a lot of options, and, like, you know, this is as good as it probably would get, and that's okay.
And he's kind, you know, he came to the little hotel bed and breakfast thing that she ran, the inn kind of thing, and he served, you know, plates and stuff for the guests and helped manage everything and sort of used his sway in the town to rile down the sort of situation that was getting out of hand in the dining room.
No, yeah. But I guess, you know, I'm not trying to, I guess, belittle their relationship by any means, but I also think that, you know, they'd probably known each other for, like, what would you say, like a week at that point before they were like, all right, I think we're going to get married.
I think more time passes than we think. Okay. I think that the movie is very fluid with time. You don't get a lot of... The only, like, few hints that you get about, like, time changing are seasonal shifts. So, like, you see snow on the ground, it's winter, then you see her planting the flowers, we know that we've transitioned into spring. Mm-hmm. So, like, I think that those are really meant to be, like, our only hints at passage of time.
Okay.
But I think it's a little bit longer than it does appear on the movie. I will say that about the film. Like, this could have been a week. You know?
Well, then I'll say that a quarter of the year goes by and they're like, all right, we're married. She lives here now. You've got to accept this. Mm-hmm. You know? Like, it's definitely still of the times quick. There wasn't, like, a lot of, like, let's date.
No, there wasn't courtship.
For 6 years and then maybe consider being engaged for 3 and then getting married. You know, no, it was like, all right, I like you, you like me, you want to do this thing? Okay.
Yeah. And I think that also opens up the door for us to talk about Peter, our real protagonist of the whole story.
Oh, yeah, the son?
Mm-hmm. So, the main thing of this story is essentially we're largely getting it from the son's point of view, Peter. And Peter is this Cody Smith-McPhee's character. If you don't know Cody Smith-McPhee as an actor, he was in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes as Jason Clarke's son, the one that hangs out with the orangutan. He was in X-Men Apocalypse and X-Men Dark Phoenix as Nightcrawler.
Is he really the person underneath all of that makeup?
Mm-hmm, yeah, because he's got the right build for Nightcrawler.
No, I get that. It's just, it was hard to really see him through all of the rest of that movie. That's terrible.
No, that's fair. He's this very, he's a very lanky young man.
Yes.
He is toothpick thin and probably pushing 6 foot. Like, he's just tall and bony.
I'm sure he's probably over 6 feet.
And so...
But that's beside the point.
He also is, not at all anyone's, the character of Peter is not at all, especially by Old West standards, a manly man. He helps his mom in the place that she runs. He studies a lot. He
makes
reads
little
a lot.
Paper flowers just as a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
And, put a lot of time and effort into just, making these paper flowers.
Yeah, because, flowers are, 1, hard to come by, and 2, expensive, I'm sure, at that time to have shipped in. And so to give the place a little bit more atmosphere, he's crafted for her mom's, the mom's centerpieces, all of these little handmade flowers.
Yeah, and they're honestly, they're lovely, and
But he's also incredibly brilliant, and he wants to be a doctor. And so what ends up happening is he becomes, in particular, a very strong target for Phil's ire. And this is when the film starts to really get into the meat of what it's about, which is Phil's repressed homosexuality.
Yeah, he buried it. And that's what I meant, by him, actively hating himself.
Yeah. The only time that he gives to himself to sort of be himself are these trips that he takes to bathe, where he literally, has a little tunnel that he crawls through to get to this secret lagoon area that no one else gets to, so that way he can finally be alone. And, the film sort of peppers out throughout all of these moments where he talks about Bronco Henry. And finally Phil, gets to the heart of Peter gets to the heart of who Phil is when he gets to this watering hole and he finds these magazines of, nude photos of men that have Bronco Henry's name on it. And he sees Phil out there. And he finally gets to I think that Peter starts to realize very quickly exactly what's going on with Phil. And it becomes this this very interesting build toward the finale.
Well, yeah, no, I love the scene, right after he discovers all of this evidence and is, putting 2 and 2 together. And then they have this moment where he's, smoking a cigarette. Mm-hmm. And he constantly will, take a puff himself. And then, keep the cigarette in his hand. And then, Phil will take a puff off of that cigarette. And then they just kept going back and forth. And it was this really, intimate moment. But, that's, really the moment where, his relationship, I think, turns and being, maybe this kid is also like me, and I'm willing to lay off of calling him slurs in front of my boys in order to maybe finally have a human connection.
Well, and you talked about the sort of, vaguely erotic moment of them sharing this cigarette. There's also this incredibly sensual moment. There are two very telling also about Phil and his inability to let go of Bronco Henry that definitely tips the hat toward Bronco Henry was not just some guy that he knew, but probably his first and only lover. And they're both incredibly sensual, and one of them is, and the first one that really hints at, like, oh, they used to be a thing, is when he starts to, like, clean Bronco Henry's saddle. He still has the saddle, and he can't sleep that night, that Kirsten Dunst is taking a bath. And so he goes out to, the barn, and he gets the saddle, and it's this very sensual moment of him very tenderly, treating it with leather conditioner and rubbing it down and touching the supple leather of the saddle and things like that. And it's like a very, very sensual moment between, like, him and this saddle. And then the next one is him with the handkerchief.
Yes, so I'm not even gonna lie. Like, you're talking about all the sensuality with this, and the saddle, and I literally was like, oh, he's, like, cleaning his saddle. Like, I hadn't connected that was anybody's other than his own. Mm-hmm. It looked like something that you would do in Red Dead Redemption, over here being like, all right, I gotta take care of my stuff because I'm a Westerner, and these are the times that we live in. So, like, for me, I hadn't even connected that was Bronco Henry's saddle directly. Mm-hmm. I was just like, oh, he can't sleep because he's an asshole, and there's a woman in the house, and he's mad about it because he doesn't like her. And so, like, at that point, I was like, oh, he's going out to do just, like, chores or something to keep his mind off of, burning the house down.
Yeah. And then the other one is he has this whole moment by the waterside with a handkerchief that
one is a for sure ring-a-ding-dinger. I was like, oh, is this where this is going, you say? It's a great scene.
Oh, yeah. And then also throughout the movie, going again back to sort of the Phil character a little bit, it's also then starkly contrasted against these moments of just, like, violent outburst. The most notable of which is most assuredly when he, in a fit of rage, starts to just, like, slap the shit out of a horse. With, like, I don't know what he picked up. It was like a piece of leather or something.
No, yeah, I think it was something that was, like, used for, maybe to put in between the saddle and the horse itself or whatever, but it was just, like, a piece of cloth, leather, something.
And he just starts to hold this horse by the reins and just slap the tar out of this horse with that.
Yeah, it's a very...
It's shocking.
Yeah. That's a word for it.
It's upsetting.
It is. It's very upsetting.
And the opening, for a fact that there is going to ultimately be some sort of confrontation between Phil and Peter, because the opening line of the movie is Peter essentially saying, like, when his dad died, he promised his mother that he would make sure that she was happy and cared for. And so what sort of son would he be if he didn't take care of his mother? And, like, the main person that starts to kind of erode under the antagonism that Phil can put out is Rose, the mother. It starts to just absolutely eat away at her. She becomes his exact target.
Well, yeah, because also, that transition moment after he starts to let up on Peter, he, like, doubles down on Rose to the point where she gets a horrifying drinking problem. And is just falling apart, at the seams. And because also, like, she has to live with somebody who is her trigger as well. Who is, the worst person for her to possibly live with is, like, her everyday, like, hey, how's it going? And there he is.
Yeah.
Being his most, aggressive self.
Yeah, it's omnipresent. She never gets a reprieve from him.
Yeah. He's always on when she's around.
It's a really, really interesting movie, and it ends with a line from the Bible, which is where it gets its title from. And so the line comes from Psalms 22. And I thought that it was really interesting. I gave it a little bit of a read, and I think that it definitely, I think I see why appeals to Peter as a Bible verse. Because a lot of it is about this guy who just feels mocked and belittled and pressed upon, and he talks about being surrounded by, you know, these strong bulls and these dogs that bite, and it has all of this kind of almost Western, you know, on a certain level, iconography. And the line that he says is, "Deliver my soul from the sword, my darling from the power of the dog." And I think it's pretty safe to say that the dog in reference, the power of the dog, is Phil's loathing that just seeps out of everything. Mm-hmm. And so I think that for Peter, "Deliver my soul from the sword, my darling from the power of the dog" was 100% sort of like a guiding sentiment, you know?
Yeah.
Instruction almost. Mm-hmm. The book that it's based on came out in 1967. And apparently the biggest thing that is omitted is chapter 2 of the book is completely gone. And it's a whole section where it's told from the perspective of the home life of Rose, Peter, and his late father before he died.
Oh, yeah, they straight up, there is no father in the movie.
The dad has already killed himself, and we've got the family as it's left. And apparently, the book, chapter 2, is all about the dad and how he had a really hard time getting people to accept him and his family. And, you know, even though most people didn't say anything outright, there were some raised eyebrows about his son. And he was really having a hard go of it. And in particular, kept on getting bullied by a character that they don't name as Phil. They just call him the Rancher.
Oh, I think that it is him.
And so,
who else could it be?
Yeah, it's very obviously him, but he doesn't go out and kind of show his hand in the book immediately. And apparently this rancher was just a son of a bitch to his dad and openly mocked Peter to the father directly. Mm-hmm. And he kind of realized that, like, this life was never going to be normal and for his son, and he starts drinking more, and, you know, everything just sort of gets worse from there, and ultimately he finally takes his own life.
Copy. Wow.
Yeah. So that's the biggest omission from the book to the screen. There's another piece of work also that is titled "The Power of the Dog," and that's a poem by Rudyard Kipling. And I again thought that there were some interesting sort of thematic touchstones. A little verse from the poem. "There is sorrow enough in the natural way, from men and women to fill our day. And when we are certain of sorrow in store, why do we always arrange for more? Brothers and sisters, I bid you beware of giving your heart to a dog to tear."
Wow. I mean, you could still tell people that today and they'd be like, no, I can change them.
But what if I fix them? So those are some sort of interesting little thematic tie-ins. It's a really rich film. I would categorize it as a revisionist Western.
No, yeah. Honestly, like, I really enjoyed it, and, like, Western is a hard bite for me when it comes to movies, because, like, there are just a lot of, like, same old Westerns, you know?
Mm-hmm.
John Wayne Westerns. There's hundreds of them, you know?
Well, and the revisionist Westerns are intended to be not these glorified, you know, what in the West grand cowboys and riding into the sunset and gunfights and westward expansion.
I think that every generation has its version of, like, a nostalgic moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the Westerns, when they were popular, when they came out, was like a people looking back on a time and going, now that
You were free.
That was a time to be alive. This time right here, ugh, gosh, so tied down by people stuff.
And so revisionist Westerns are things, for example, like in a modern context, keeping in mind that, like, modern, we're going all the way back to the 70s as well. McCabe and Mrs. Miller, The Outlaw Josie Wales, Dances with Wolves, Unforgiven.
Okay, I could get into a more revisionist Western outlook, because also the idea of the West being, like, this great thing is a horribly misguided mindset, you know? Like, maybe you were free, but there was also, like, a lot that all that freedom gave, like, you lost in you know, in reality.
Yeah.
Because, like, it was a hard life, and I think that this movie also really touches on the fact that, like, it is hard to be, you know, out there all of the time in the Western, you know, mindset. Being a rancher isn't something that you just do.
No.
It's an entire way of life.
And it is also emotionally daunting. Mm-hmm. You know, you sometimes don't see loved ones for long stretches of time. You can be very isolated depending on where you are. And yeah, if you're any kind of different, depending on the town that you're in, that's a big problem.
No, yeah. And it's like, what, you're gonna hop in your car and you're gonna drive somewhere else? No.
And you can't just start a new ranch somewhere. That's an undertaking.
And also, like, you know, this is not a career. This is not a job. This is every day.
This is a lifestyle.
This is, you wake up and you do this. You don't get to have, you know, your free time to maybe do really anything else. You don't have any hobbies. This is your entire life.
No, absolutely. You know, the only reason that George is able to have any kind of secondary thing is because he did lean into the honesty of who he was and the fact that he was an educated man, and he became the owner of that ranch. Mm-hmm. And he's very comfortable with that fact. And, you know, his brother may have some of this more, you know, toxic mask kind of authority, you know, where the tough men listen to him and stuff like that. But George is the real powerful one. You know, George is the one that knows the governor. George is the one that actually has buying power, which, you know, even back then was much greater power than any sort of just a ranch hand had.
No, yeah. So, like, no, I'm not here for any movie that's like, isn't it fun to be out here?
Yeah.
You're looking at that through the rosiest of rose-tinted glasses.
Yeah.
Because that's not the case. No, people were assholes then, they're assholes now. Let's call a spade, guys.
Yeah. So if you had to give The Power of the Dog a score out of 5, what would you give it, dear?
I think that I'm gonna give The Power of the Dog a 4.5.
Okay.
I really enjoyed this movie. I thought that it was really an interesting ride. It had a lot of twists and turns that I was genuinely not expecting.
So what's your half point off for?
I'm thinking.
Okay.
I don't know, for whipping that horse? No, yeah, I think that, gosh, we haven't talked about Kirsten Dunst at all. Maybe my half point off is for her. She was just there. She was...
I think she did a good job with the character, but I certainly wouldn't say that it's like the most groundbreaking Kirsten Dunst performance I've seen. I thought she did great with it, but it wasn't like a career all-time high, I think, performance for me from her.
No, yeah, I think that for me, it could have been anyone, and it's not just her. And I think that has a lot to say. You know, when you think of this character in your brain, do you see her or do you see just anybody? You know,
no, absolutely.
I think that that's probably where I'm gonna, take my half point off. I think that she was probably of our four lead characters, she was fine.
Her best scene was, I think, the piano scene.
Oh yeah, I really enjoyed that scene, and I really enjoyed
the alley.
She had a lot of like really sad lady moments in this movie where I thought she did a phenomenal job, and then after that I was like, okay. I think that her beginning part was just fine. Her being drunk. Yeah, Kirsten.
It was a very naturalized drunk, I'll be honest. Yeah. It was great. If I had to give it a score, I think I'll go...
It's hard, right?
Yeah. I think I'm going to give it a 5. I could definitely knock it down to a 4.5, just sort of on the fact that I think time is a little bit wibbly. And what is a very protracted period of time does seem to take place in a very short period of time. Mm-hmm. But I think I'm going to go with a 10 out of 5 on it. I really quite enjoyed it a lot, and I think that it's... I understand why this book... that the movie is based on was also like a touchstone for other authors. This is the book that apparently was inspiration, not the inspiration, but an inspiration for the book Brokeback Mountain. And I think you definitely see a lot of those tones and textures and things like that with it.
Another note, Jesse Plemons and Benedict Cumberbatch are not related. There is no way that I could ever look at those two people and go, no, those are brothers.
Especially once I saw the parents, but that's all that we have for The Power of the Dog, and now we'll move on to Titane. Surprise, we don't have a clip. I tried to find one, and because this movie is entirely in French, they just cut the trailer without any dialogue. It is just moody atmosphere shots and soundtrack, and that is all that the trailer is. And so we don't actually have a trailer for this one.
In a world where a woman has sex with a car.
That's right. So the movie is directed, this is Titane, it came out in 2021. It's directed by Julia Ducournau. It is written by her as well, and she had 2 writing consultants, Jacques Acotti and Simonetta Greggio. I'm sorry if I butchered those names. I didn't realize that I would need those as well at the time. So, it stars... Our principal cast members are Agatha Roussel and Vincent Linden. And our premise is following a series of unexplained crimes, a father is reunited with the son who has been missing for 10 years. Titane, a metal highly resistant to heat and corrosion with high tensile strength alloys. That's the official synopsis.
That's the official one?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who wrote that, but they didn't watch this movie.
So for a little bit of background on our director, Julia Ducournau, she is French. She was born in 1983, and her parents were both doctors.
Oh.
Her mother was a gynecologist, and her father was a dermatologist. And she attended school for screenwriting. She did a short film where a woman's shed her skin after getting a stomach bug. And she did another short film. She did a TV film about a bulimic seeking revenge on her college tormentor.
Wow.
And then she did her big breakout feature in 2016, Raw, which the premise is, for those who don't know, I haven't seen Raw. I'm interested in seeing it. A vegetarian inadvertently eats meat, and after she gets the taste for, like, raw flesh, she can't shake it off, and it becomes this mounting obsession of her needing to consume raw flesh.
There's a theme happening here of the things that this director has made. There's a lot of, like, weird body stuff and a lot of strange habits.
Yeah. So then she made Titane, which won several awards and honors, and it was on the film circuit. And actually, it made its way to the Cannes Film Festival, and it ended up winning the top prize at the Cannes Film Festival, the Palme d'Or. And as a fun little connection to our previous movie, they're the, if I'm not mistaken, Ducournau is the second director to win the Palme d'Or, and the first one was Jane Campion in 1993 for her film The Piano.
So, we're gonna pretend like we did this on purpose. Woo! Yay, us!
In a little funny twist, normally that award is saved for the last part of the night. And there was a mistranslation with the jury president at the time, Spike Lee. And he thought, apparently what they said was, like, give out the first award. And he thought that they had said something to the effect of, like, you know, reveal who's in first. And so he was like, oh, okay, well, I'll go out and present the Palme d'Or then.
Ha! That's perfect. So everybody can go home now. It doesn't matter. The rest
we
of
peaked, everyone.
Yeah, everybody else is under this person. Good night.
So, dear, what did you think of Titane?
Wow, what a roller coaster ride of a movie. I could really separate this movie into chapters of, like, events that happen. Because for the most part, there is really, like, no real plot. It is a lot of, like, the life and times of this one chick as she just kind of skates the rules of reality a little bit. You know, she's a dancer. She dances on cars and ends up killing a dude, and then I guess gets the taste for killing and starts doing that some more, but in the middle of that she has sex with a car and then gets impregnated by said car. But that is really, like, the B or C story of this movie. And then it's just, like, her on the run, and then being mistaken for this guy's lost son, and him taking her in, and then her playing make-believe for a little bit while her very rapid pregnancy is happening, and she keeps trying to conceal it. It's just such a... It's like a Big Brother movie, you know, where you're just kind of like a fly on the wall of this person's crazy life. And there's a lot of weird body horror things in this that, like, definitely, like, will make your skin crawl. But yeah, no, it was just... I had no idea what was going to happen next. And we have watched a lot of movies. We have watched a lot of horror movies together. And I just had... This movie, for me, was almost like Sorry to Bother You, where it starts out in one lane, and then we go 16 lanes over, and then we end up in China or something. I don't know. I don't know where this highway goes at this point anymore. And you're just kind of stuck. You're like, I have to finish this. I have to know how it ends, because otherwise I will have zero closure. And then we got there, and I was like, what? So confusing. Such a weird ride. I think about this movie a lot because of all of the strange things that I've never seen on a film done before, shown to me, all condensed into one movie.
No, I think that that's all very fair. You're absolutely right. It is very much a body horror film, but the body horror really, with the exception of like the end of the movie, most of the body horror exists in the first part of the movie, more so. In the first, like, third-ish to like, half, is where a lot of the body horror and a lot of the, like, violence and stuff like that comes from. And then it becomes this strange, to your point, sort of character study for a little while. You know, it is almost like we could have put, like, a little intermission in this thing, and, like, this is the second half of the show, and that's the first half of the show, you know, kind of a thing. Where it has this very different tone, because she goes from being... It's a fascinating movie. She goes from being this very overtly femme woman, you know, very sexualized. It's not just that she's dancing, like, on a car. Like, she is, like, twerking on top of this car. And you're for so much of it, to your point of, like, for so much of that first part, you're really not sure how much you can trust what you're seeing as being true. And I think we talked about it in the podcast a little bit. It's like American Psycho, where we're getting it from Christian Bale's character's perspective, and then at the end it turns out that, like, none of what we thought happened really actually happened, or Fight Club. Mm-hmm. Because, like, for a little while, I was honestly thinking, like, that guy who started to, you know, a little content warning for, you know, unfortunate things, that guy who started to, like, assault her in the car, for a little while I was thinking that she was hallucinating the whole car thing as a fill-in for what had actually happened to her. But then, obviously, of course, that turns out to not be the case at all.
No, it's like a literally she has sex with this car.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, to your point, there were definitely times where I was like, you know, is this a fantasy? Is all of this, you know, the moment where she's, you know, with the other dancer and, you know, they're gonna have sex, and then out of nowhere she kills her too, and it was just kind of like is it kind of like that moment in Mean Girls where they're at the mall and they're all acting like animals.
She's like, oh, it's the watering hole. Yeah.
Exactly, but then we go back to reality, like, 2 seconds later. I was like, is she fantasizing about, like, killing this person, but, like, we're gonna blip back and, like, none of this would have happened? And it was like, no, she really did this. And now she's on the run. Yeah.
And so then, once she sort of transitions into being this boy, this young man, she then, you know, partially because she has to be so subdued, but she really goes inward, and, you know, she, like, shaves her eyebrows, she, like, shaves her head, and then at that point, you know, she's far less feminine in appearance and also in how she presents herself, but that's also when she's going through the process of being pregnant.
Yeah, and, like, you know, she starts this transition to hiding who she is because of the fact that she's on the run and everybody has her photo and stuff, and so she's, like, doing the classic, like, spy person thing to do where they're like, I gotta dye my hair and do things to make myself different. Oh my god, when she fucking breaks her nose.
Oh, huh.
I had forgotten about it until I started, like, thinking about that scene in my head, and that was a rough moment, man. That one was hard to... I had to look away. I couldn't watch her do it. Yeah. I had to actively close my eyes and just, like, hear the sound of her break her own nose on the edge of this sink.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to see it.
Yeah, without giving away too much more about, like, what happens in the movie, because some of this you just have to experience, and I'm sorry, however squeamish it'll make you, and you'll probably be like, why didn't you warn me? Oh, well.
Well, you're getting it
but
now.
Some of the most uncomfortable moments are the violence she perpetrates upon her own body.
Yeah.
It's horrifying in two particular scenes. The nose break is the other one. I'm not going to talk about the other one.
No, that's fine.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Squeamish.
But I also think, you know, to your point of the fact that, like, she's, you know, transitioning into somebody else's identity, basically. You know, this man has, like, fully accepted her as his missing son and, like, basically refuses to acknowledge the fact that she is not whoever this boy is, you know, that he lost as, like, I'm assuming, like, a young child, and, like, it's just like, oh, good, you're back, and now, I don't know, supposed to be, like, 17 or 20 or whatever now, but, like, you know, every time he talks about it, it's so, you know, like, it feels like he was, like, a 7 to 10-year-old when, like, he went missing. Mm-hmm. And, like, yeah, to your point, you know, while she's busy trying to pretend to be this person that she's not, and I think that's also why she starts to just, like, cut out on talking, doesn't say anything, because, like, what if she says or does something that tips this man off, you know? Right now, he's the best thing that she's got, and if he could kick her out, and she could be back on the run again, you know, and maybe this can, in a weird way, be, like, her reality for a little bit, and she kind of just, like, accepts that. But I hated her binding. Oh, yeah. It was the worst way to bind. It was very, just aggressive, and it hurt to watch. It's even though a lot of the really big violence is gone in the second half of the movie, it becomes this much more subtle discomfort with what you're seeing her do, with the extremes you're seeing her go to conceal herself. Yeah. And, like, fully commits to it, you know, like, I'll give her that, you know, she was not going to get arrested. Yeah. And it's such an odd, weird experience, and, like, I wanna I guess, like, talk to the director and, like, figure out, you know, more of what the whole idea behind this was. There's a lot of, like, gender ambiguity. Thank you. Such a difficult word to say. You know, it was, like, very, very fluid, you know, you don't really know for a while, because she just fully, you know, accepts her reality and just fully commits to it. And, you know, to the point where you're like, is this who she wants to be? Or is this something that is, like, just the here and the now? Would eventually she go back to dancing on cars? Well, and I think that it's interesting you bring that up, because it does have this, you know, this interesting through line, you know, of her taking on the identity of Adrian is the name of the young man that she's supposed to be. And so you're right, she does kind of choose to live so fully as Adrian, but then also in the moment where it's kind of most important for her, she does specifically finally open up and want to be Alexia again. And so it's a really interesting moment, because it's also when we're getting close to the finale of the whole thing. And so, yeah, it's this interesting choice of now finally choosing to open up in full about who she is, you know, at sort of the last possible moment in the narrative. Mm-hmm. And I think it also has an interesting little side sort of B-C plot happening as well with the man that is her father, Vincent, with the fact that he's trying to stay in this peak physical form, you know, this sort of peak masculine form, mm-hmm. and is using steroids and using them dangerously and is trying to, you know, bulk up and be able to do all of the pull-ups that he used to be able to do. And he's not comfortable necessarily with who he is right now and where he is right now.
And so there is kind of this whole thing of a strange chosen family of people who don't feel completely themselves. Mm-hmm. And it's a really, really interesting emotional through line for those characters in the second half of the movie.
Yeah, Vincent is such an interesting character as well, because like he will go through these extensive like almost killing himself with steroids, but then like that scene where like he's like, no, we're gonna dance together, like you're my child, you know, he kisses him on the head and stuff, and it's like, this is my son Adrian, and he's so proud, and he's like, you know, wants to be close to him, and does all of these things because he's just like so just like overjoyed with having his child back, you know, in his mind, that like all of these things that he probably used to do, you know, this intimacy really comes out on the forefront. But then it's a completely different person from the person that he puts on and the person that he wants to be to the outward world. And I just think that's like an interesting, you know, why on earth do you put on this like whole ultra mask persona, you know, why is that your goal when in reality you are this person, you are this sweet, tender, you know, loving person. But like honestly, like the steroids aren't helping anything, because if any, you know, you're using them to the point of like even being aggressive at points to the person who you love, and not even intentionally, it's just because of the drugs. No,
absolutely. So it's a very thematically rich movie, and it ends up touching a lot on some of the same ideas of the power of the dog, of identity, of who you are, of repressing certain things. And it's a movie that I really honestly haven't stopped thinking about, to your point as well, since the first time that we watched it. Like it's one that has really stuck in the brain quite a lot.
Mm-hmm. Because there's just nothing like it, and I can, you know, try and name a bunch of movies that have made me feel like this, that have made me, you know, really watch this movie and really think about it and really just like a lot of the time go, what?
It's kind of as surreal. If I was gonna pick a movie from an American context that I think it hits, obviously what I'm about to say is not a body horror movie, but I think it has the same sort of surreal dive in the narrative, is Spring Breakers.
Yes, I think that that's a completely fair.
Weird hypnotic visuals, this kind of, you know,
other
full
world
commitment to its ideals, no matter how surreal and weird it gets.
Yeah, you know, it's like a an improv experiment, you know, an exercise where the answer is always yes. But it's not just like casual things that are being put out there. It's like, would you murder? Yes. You know, would you do, I don't know, mass murder in masks in a bikini? Yes. What does that look like? This. You know, and that's Spring Breakers. That movie is crazy. And I think that, yeah, to your point, this also had this just double down, both feet in the deep end kind of roller coaster ride.
Unflinchingly.
Yeah, you know, there was never a time where, like, as an audience member, I was sure of what was going to happen next. And I think that's fair for both of those movies.
Yeah. It also kind of reminded me a little bit of Lamb in the sense of it has this almost magical realism, this kind of, almost like a weird, modern, fucked up, dark fairy tale kind of thing occurring inside of it.
No, yeah, for sure. You know, very, like, grim horror, like the original true stories that are, like, and the stepsisters got their feet chopped off and are blinded, and, you know, all of these horrible, you know, frightening things are happening to characters that are our main characters, you know, or character adjacent, you know, our B characters are getting horribly mangled for the sake of a children's story. And I think that is a very fair comparison, because I've also haven't stopped thinking about Lamb.
Yeah. And, you know, with this movie, I think Alexia was on a certain level looking to feel something. Because I think that she had this very stark home life. She had a shitty, distant father who, even though he was like a doctor, didn't want to touch her, didn't want to, talk to her, didn't want to be around her. And, she experiences a car accident as a child. And her reunion with her parents is incredibly tame. But her reunion with the car, she literally, runs up to the car and hugs it and kisses it. Mm-hmm. And so I think that she was on a certain level, and the reason that she settled into it was because she was looking to feel something from someone in some way.
No, yeah, and honestly, I think that that's why she ends up staying with Vincent for so long, because she could have easily, he tells her, time and time again, you can leave whenever you want. The door is always open, but you can always come, so you can come back home. And, I think that that's something that she never really had, especially because of her relationship with her parents. But also, to your point, yeah, I completely agree. I think that she was trying to feel literally anything, and I think that that's why that first tick of her, killing that dude with her hair chopstick. I'm not sure what the right word for it is. It's they look like the 90s, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, she stabs him. It's gross. But after that moment, it really starts to just chug in this weird what can I do next kind of mentality, very adrenaline high moment for our character, being well, all right, this was a weird, interesting, fun feeling. How can I double down, triple down on this? But then she ends up getting in her own way by being in a situation where she has to go further than she, I guess, even intended to do at that moment, because there were a lot of people in that house. Also, I loved the fact that she's killing people. And eventually it's just oh my gosh, how many more of you guys are here? A really honest, a human emotion of being I'm exhausted. I don't feel like doing this anymore. I just actually would rather go home. Maybe I shouldn't have done any of this. Whereas, action movies are constantly nobody ever is, winded.
Yeah.
Michael Myers is not winded.
No, I think that that's all totally fair. It's really just something else, and I understand why some people would think that's a really weird premise, I'm not going to watch that. And that's totally fine if you don't want to, but I really think it's an incredibly interesting movie. I think it's a very bold movie. It's very striking in its visuals as well. Both of these movies, we didn't really talk about it much with Power of the Dog. Both of these movies are very visually interesting as well. They're very well shot, very well framed. And, with this, with Titane, there's also a lot of very interesting color choices and color uses that you aren't able to do with the time period setting of The Power of the Dog. So it's a very visually rich film as well.
Yeah, this movie is on acid. And that's kind of the best way to describe it. It's everything's amped up to 11, and then even when you start the come down, it still isn't what you're expecting at all. And the more I think about this movie, the more I like it. The further away from this movie I get, the more I enjoyed it. But the initial watch through, there were a lot of times.
Shocking.
Yeah, it was very shocking, and there were a lot of times where I was I don't want to watch any more of this. This is really unsettling.
Yeah.
But I think that in a way that, that was the whole intention behind the movie itself, was to be shocking, was to be, skin crawly feeling. But, now getting to really break it down with you has been a really eye-opening experience of what the possible message of this movie is. And I really enjoy it.
Absolutely. I agree. I really enjoyed it when I did like it when I first saw it, but you're right, it is just such a jolt. And it's it's hard to, when you're first done with something like this, really, I think 100% know how you feel about it. And so, yeah, time has really just made it all the better for me as well. So if you had to give it a rating out of 5, what would you give Titane?
Oh, God. This is such a challenge. I think I'm gonna give Titane, I'm gonna give Titane a 4.
Okay.
I think that's the fair, honest answer, because there were times when I couldn't watch this movie. And I have to give it that. For me, this movie is a 4. It's an odd, weird, crazy ride. And, like, I don't know how often I'm going to go back to it.
That's fair. And also, even though I thought the movie was great, and I did think that the cast did really, really well, I don't know if it was in the script side, the directing side, the performance side, but I did sometimes feel a little bit more disconnected from Alexia than I wanted to.
Oh, yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I felt no, like, oneness with this character.
And so I think that I'd probably give it... I think that I'll give it a 4 to a 4.5.
Okay.
I'll stick with 4. It's such a rush. It's such a gut punch. But I like it a lot, and it's definitely one that I think that I would like to own, but it's also, to your point, not one that I'm going to pop in every year.
No, yeah, this isn't like well, I'm bored, we might as well just put on Titane. Like, I have to be in the right frame of mind, because, like, if I'm having a bad day, this isn't going to make it any better.
No. So that's pretty much all that we have for Titane. I wanted to bring up a few things. So first of all, a little bit of news. With the newsletter that went out, Madeline Davis, our friend of the show, my sister, was kind enough to go and write this great piece about representation, about being, a woman and wanting to see women on screen and the types of women that you see on screen or that you want to see on screen. And it was a really fun little, like, personal piece. It's not very analytical. It is very much a personal little bit. And it's called The Women on the Screen, The Woman in the Mirror. And I sent it out with a newsletter, but I'm going to go and post it onto the website for everyone on Saturday, which is also when I'm going to go and post all of the themes for the rest of the month and some of our other guests that we're going to be having. As far as, and that's, some personal news for us. Also, March 7th, not directed by a woman, but the entire cast is women. March 7th, you can come to thefilmbuds.com and you can read my review of The Seed. I got set up with a screener. It's a Shudder horror film. It was on the independent film circuit, and Shudder, the horror streaming platform, picked it up. And it comes out March 10th. My review is embargoed until the 7th, but you should definitely come and give that a read. And that'll be available at 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time on March 7th. So definitely come back and check that out. Moving on to sort of what we're here to talk about, which is movies and entertainment and media and television things. So the Oscars have tried to, they got into that hot water for cutting some of the categories. And they've now tried to go through and be like, no, you guys are missing the whole point. You're missing what we're doing. We're starting the ceremony an hour earlier, and then we're going to edit all of those presentations down. You're going to see the name get read. Then the person will edit it, and the person will be on stage. We're just going to cut out their walk to the stage. And we'll, give you the emotional, impactful moment of their speech. And it'll be inserted throughout all the 8 categories will be inserted throughout the broadcast.
This feels like something that they literally were like, crap, we weren't going to show it. We weren't going to do any of this stuff. But now we are. We have to plan C this thing really hard to make everybody happy.
And they're like, are the big A-lister stars going to be there when it happens? No, they will be on the red carpet. But there will be people in the house, to clap for them. And that kind of thing.
They get the pity cap. They get the pre-recorded claps from
like a half full house.
I was going to say from the sitcoms of the 50s that they just get to play on a loop. It's actually an empty room.
Yeah. So it's a pretty crass move.
But also this definitely feels like we have to hard adjust, because if that was your plan from all along, then why didn't you say that?
They were like, oh, it got miscommunicated, and blown out of proportion.
From your PR people, and like the president's PR people that like write the scripts and stuff, you're telling me that somebody did their job wrong?
And so it's just a disaster.
Honestly, just stop trying at this point. I would literally at this point, I think, be like, guys, we're just gonna post all of the wins on. And we're going to try this again next year. We're going to do it up next year.
Honestly, I think we talked about this. I don't think that I'm going to watch them this year. I was actually really thinking about it. I was like, I've been doing Film Buds. I should go and try and get myself caught up. I still want to get caught up.
No, yeah, that's fine. I mean, we're probably more caught up than half of the people who voted for these movies.
Fair. And so I was really sitting and I was like, it would be nice to get caught up and watch them and talk about them and things like that. And then this kind of stuff came out and I was like, or not.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're just this isn't that old saying where like bad press, any press is good press, or whatever the hell. This is bad, guys. This is trying to put the cat back in the bag after it's across the street, and you're like, come back here. I've got the bag right here, and it's not gonna happen. I'm so sorry. It's laughable.
Yeah.
It's a farce.
Beyond that, the only other thing, there were 2 other bits of news that I wanted to touch on, and then we'll talk about what we're watching. One of them is that 20th Century Studios, formerly 20th Century Fox, now owned by Disney, was talking about their release schedule and how it's going to differ. And in news that I think is definitely probably bad news for theatrical releases and stuff like that, they're planning on making over 10 movies a year, but only about 3 to 5 of them will be released theatrically.
I really want to know, if movies aren't getting a theatrical release, are they still going to be willing to put it out on disc?
No.
Well, then, what makes this any different than a direct-to-DVD Disney sequel, Aladdin 5?
Budget.
That's great. But also, Disney does not care about Fox. They bought them just to have less people on the playing field.
And to get control of the parts of their IPs that they bought and didn't have full control of yet.
Yeah, exactly. So now you're not going to allow these movies to go into the theaters. You're not going to allow me to buy it. And you're not going to advertise it well. So I'm not going to know it's coming out until 2 weekends after it's supposed to have been out. When you have, I don't know, Barbie 7 coming out, and you're gonna make a big fucking deal out of it. I know that they don't own Barbie, but it doesn't matter.
No, I get where you're at. And, like, you know, it's just gonna get dropped on a streaming platform somewhere.
It's going to be dropped like how Netflix drops things, which is 500 new things every second of every day. Hope you find something that you like.
No, pretty much. And actually, off of that news, I will say this. Disney Plus is currently introducing, and it's really funny because I don't think we talked about it on the show. Long ago, I suggested in a conversation that we had that Disney would be smart, since they were buying Fox and getting all of this content and stuff like that, to implement a parental control system where you could block out certain ratings, you could put a PIN code in, stuff like that. Well, because Disney is now getting all of their Netflix Marvel shows back, and there's no way to edit down those shows to make them for an American audience, you know, on current Disney Plus friendly, they're now also implementing a PIN code-based parental control lock on content for Disney Plus.
Honestly, then they should just merge Hulu onto Disney and just call it Square. Just have all of the things that aren't Disney approved that they throw on Hulu just under that PIN code or whatever, you know? Have it be an age-locked profile, you know? If you and all of the people that you know are of age, then you don't need any locks.
No, absolutely. You could go and you could have like a mom and dad profile that has a PIN code, and then, you know, little Johnny and little Susie's accounts, you know, are PIN code free, but also they have locks to where, you know, Johnny's 12, so it at least goes up to PG-13, but little Susie's 4, so it's all, you know, PG and G stuff.
Exactly. And maybe, who knows, they might actually care a little bit more about this IP instead of just, like, brushing it under the rug to throw it on Hulu. Because, like, it's really interesting how much they don't care about anything that isn't Disney specific.
Well, and it's also interesting because in Europe, there is no Hulu. And so all of this stuff in European countries and other stuff like that goes directly onto Disney Plus. You can go and watch The Last Duel on Disney Plus in Europe.
And again, that's just a bizarre concept, because here, thank goodness these movies like got critically acclaimed and, you know, all of this attention, because if they hadn't, they would have literally not existed.
Yeah, and
in the eyes of Disney. And
they got put all over the place, you know, like some releases that are Disney-owned releases have been put onto Hulu. The Last Duel is available on HBO Max. So, like, it's a very all-over-the-board system for how they're operating all of this stuff.
I feel like they maybe put it on HBO because it is the running joke that they don't care about Hulu.
So that's another little bit of industry news that I wanted to touch on. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was, you know, they're making that Madonna movie.
They're making a Madonna movie?
I thought that I had told you this.
I had no idea that they were making a Madonna movie.
They're not just making a Madonna movie.
Does it have Madonna in it?
Madonna is going to be a big part of it. She has, like, full creative control to a certain degree over...
Well, that's a problem.
The creation of her biopic.
That's a dumb idea.
Yeah, it's going to be terrible, but...
I mean, the reason it's going to be a bad idea, dear listener, is because the moment that you get to have control over how your life looks, it's not real anymore.
It's going to be sanitized and this warped version of how you saw yourself at that time.
Instead of, it's like how we were talking about earlier, with The Power of the Dog not being a rose-colored glasses version of what the living in the West was like. This is going to just be a John Wayne Western, but the Madonna movie. You know, it's going to be like, oh yeah, look at how amazing I was. Pointy tits.
Yeah. And it's going to be more of like a Bohemian Rhapsody kind of thing, where like we roll out all the hit songs, we polish off the things that are more controversial, and we call it a day.
Yeah, and now we've rewritten history, and so anyone who wasn't alive to know
Thinks that this is valid.
Yeah, this is a real story now instead of just a fictionalized version of real events. Mm-hmm. Delightful.
And so they've been hosting auditions.
For Madonna?
For Madonna.
Do you think me, a black woman, should audition for Madonna? I think I'll get it.
Well, it's a, this is where I was really gonna enjoy your reaction. Apparently, the process for the Madonna auditions have been like a multi-day affair.
What?
During which time you end up spending like 10 hours with Madonna's choreographer. And then you end up spending like another hour or two with Madonna, talking about things, doing choreography with Madonna. And so it's this apparently very grueling whole day experience, 12-hour experience. And they've had like Julia Fox apparently in there. They've had Florence Pugh in there. And it's this entire big to-do for her to find her Madonna.
No. Number one, again, back to my original point. You can't look at yourself through the lens of another person. So, like, you being actively a part of the auditioning process of finding the next, the you that they're gonna watch on screen is ridiculous. I couldn't possibly cast somebody to play me in a biopic of my life. I don't want my hands on it because I don't know what I would talk about. Whereas somebody else would make art out of my life, I would just be like, I don't know, I did school stuff for a little bit and I lived in New York, you know? Whereas like, you know, I don't know, somebody's gonna make my life look like how you would tell your kids she's a big star in New York. Yeah. But like, oh, god damn it. I think that this is absolutely ridiculous. I'm glad that they've got some big names in there, because I was honestly expecting just to, you know, what would be more interesting is for them to find a completely unknown person
and build Madonna.
Yes. Well, not just like build them, but like find somebody who like truly can evoke Madonna, but that's why she needs to get out of there. Because, like, any of the things that, like, she doesn't see in herself that this person may pull out, she'd be like, ah, that's not me. Or you're like, what are you talking about? Have you met you? Of course that's you. You know? And also the fact that, like, I don't think that really anybody... I think that they need, like, a professional performer. And, you know, not a movie star. A performer. Somebody who could, in theory... do the Madonna musical and play Madonna 8 days a week, you know.
Someone who could do a Madonna tour.
Exactly. It's work, but that's also why they're putting it into this, like, crazy auditioning thing. Nobody who is on the silver screen has ever worked this hard.
It makes me think of, to a lesser degree, apparently the audition process to be a Manson child in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was obviously not as grueling, but it was apparently a very elaborate process, where they had, like, discussions with Quentin. They had to turn in, you know, like, an audition tape, of course. Then they also had to turn in, like, a project. Like, he assigned them, like, the task of, like, going out and creating something.
Well, I mean, again, I think that that's all just, like, a part... I think that, I guess what I'm saying is, like, we have to separate the people who are just in this for the money from the people who do this for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think that anybody, like, no offense to anyone like Florence Pugh or whomever the first person you said was, but, like, I guess I don't see that coming from them, you know? I think that they thought that this is going to just be a walk in the park. I'm going to sing a little. I'm going to dance a little. I'm going to be Madonna. Where she's literally trying to find, like, her. And at the end of the day, you're not going to find... Where did you find yourself? Go back to your beginnings, Madonna, and look there.
No, that's fair. I think it's pretty insane, especially, you know, I can definitely understand like doing some, you know, choreo and some of that sort of stuff, but like multiple days of like 12-hour days
They need
for an audition.
Yeah, no, they need the chick from Showgirls. What's her name?
The main one?
Yeah.
Elizabeth Berkley?
They need like an Elizabeth Berkley type person. They're like, I'm willing to put it all out there. I can dance. I can do it. I am this character. I am Madonna. Whereas like, what are you planning on getting from this? Because at the end of the day, you're going to put a whole lot of work into probably not actually getting anything close to what you want. Because again, it's going to be this idolized version of Madonna instead of an actual Madonna.
No, absolutely.
And, like, I don't even care about Madonna's career like that. Somebody does. But, like, somebody is also perfect for this part who isn't Black Widow's adjacent sister.
No, absolutely. No, I think that everything you said is very fair, and I wanted to get, you know, an actor's reaction kind of to some of this process.
You're asking a lot of people who make millions of dollars to work for a month.
Well, and there are some other names in there. I don't have them off the top of my head. And
but the thing is, you said that there are other names. Mm-hmm. So that means that those names are known.
Lesser name knowns, like a Julia Garner, I think, is one of them.
That sounds like somebody that somebody knows.
No, that's fair. So that's kind of where we're at with the whole process.
I'm crying. I can't believe that they're making a biopic about Madonna. She's still alive. I think that there should be a limit on like the lifespan of a person. Like, I can't give you your entire life story when you're only in your 60s.
No, that's very fair.
And still actively performing to some degree. That'd be like being like, all right, tomorrow we're going to make a Beyonce movie. Even though she's still at the height of her career and is still putting out music and is still a phenomenon of the world. But we're going to do it because of money.
Well, and honestly, if you were going to do a movie about Madonna, back when Madonna was Madonna, even though she's alive, you should have done it like 10 years ago, back when Lady Gaga was Madonna.
Oh, well, yeah, but now Lady Gaga is Lady Poo Poo, so here we are. Lady Boof.
So...
she did that accent.
It
wasn't good, but she worked hard on it.
I think it's going to be tough to make it a truly great film. I think it's going to be tough to make it a great biopic. You know, one of the reasons that Patton was so good was because both the main writer and the man that played Patton were like, I don't know if I like him. And had to figure him out. And so I think that having someone, again, as we already said, with so much proximity, the person themselves, I just think it's going to be an absolute nightmare.
No, I would be shocked if this movie is remembered for anything other than,
it's the Madonna movie.
Guys, you remember that Madonna movie that came out years ago? Yeah, I never watched it. It didn't look interesting. Like, I can hear it now.
But that's pretty much all that I have for us. Oh, right. Ha ha ha. What we've been watching. Actually, like, nothing. We've been watching, like, some Jeopardy. We've been watching some Mythbusters. I've been playing a lot of Mass Effect 2.
You have been doing that, yes.
Dear, how do you like Mass Effect 2?
I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite shop on the Citadel. No, yeah, that's my review of of Mass Effect.
Think you could give me a discount?
God, man, it's such a swindler. They're like, good guy points. You did it. You did good guy things by
Here's 4 good guy points.
For telling everybody that this is his favorite shop. He does it at every shop. It's not even special after the 6th time you've done it. So it's the best running joke of the game, honestly. No, I'm really enjoying the game. I liked the first one a lot. I thought that the Citadel was really interesting. But I am also enjoying getting to see different parts of this universe. We're 2 years removed from the first one. And it's just getting to see new characters, but also, getting to see some old characters, but, like, in passing. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about Mass Effect 3, where it's like, we're all in this together, and, like, we just bring the band back together in an obnoxious way. Because everybody was like, boo, we wanted the other people back, and they were like, we got you, fam. Don't you fret. But no, I've been really enjoying the storyline. I'm curious to see where it goes. What are the people with the teeth? The collectors?
The collectors are the main bad guy aliens.
Yeah, with the teeth.
I guess they have teeth, yeah.
What are you talking about? I guess they have teeth. The one that looks literally like a demon mask from Halloween, talking teeth mouth bits. It's a whole clan of them.
Yeah, that's the collectors then.
You said, I guess they have teeth. That's like their whole face. He's currently looking it up.
Are these the people that you're looking for?
No, the other ones. The ones that used to be the Protheans or whatever.
Yeah, that's the collectors.
Okay, well then get a picture without their masks on.
Oh, they always have the headpiece on.
Then what are the other ones? Okay, we might as well just skip over a lot of this chat. Because I know what I'm talking about, but you're not. The ones that have the weird demon faces. Where their mouth literally looks like scissor teeth. Like this. And they like...
Oh, the Batarians?
Is that what they're called?
It's either the Batarians or the Vorcha.
I don't know. All of these names sound made up to me. Nope, not that one.
Okay, let me try the Vorcha.
Those ones!
Vorcha! There we go. We figured them out.
I'm mad that you couldn't figure out that I was like the demon-faced ones, and you were like, I don't know. The thing that literally looks like it spawned from the actual bowels of hell. And you were like, beats me. I guess they have teeth. Oh my gosh. That took way longer to get to that point than I was expecting it to. Ask me like I know the names of these made-up creatures. I'm watching it, but I'm not taking notes. Like, I think that's the missing translation. Yeah, those things are horrifying looking.
That's fair.
And I don't understand how at all they talk without lips.
Don't worry about it.
It's just all teeth.
Don't worry about it.
They look like an extra from Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Or like the mouth of Sauron.
Yeah, exactly. Like, somebody had a nightmare and was like, I got an idea.
Beyond that, the only thing that I've been watching is I've still been doing the Halloween films. I have my Letterboxd linked below, so if you want, you can go and look at some of the reviews that I've posted. You can look at the list that I did. I've been ranking them as I go. But that's pretty much all that we have for y'all. Next week, I haven't actually officially locked down what we're going to do for next week. It's a little bit guest dependent. But it will either be one of two things. It will either be historic films, and we'll be doing a film from the 1960s and the 1940s. The one from 1916 is Where Are My Children?
Where are my children?
And I think the other one is called Dance Girl Dance, and it's a Lucille Ball film from 1940. So that'll potentially be something that we do, or it will be an episode about anime films directed by women, because anime is a very male-dominated field, especially in the director's chair.
Again, right back to what I was saying from the very, very beginning point of this episode. You know, guys, there aren't a lot of women directors.
Yeah.
And there are even less of them that are acknowledged for their work. Also, random aside, I think it's weird that, like, actor gets demoted to actress when you're a woman, but we don't have, like, directress.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, why is it just that one?
You know why.
That gets to wear a dress?
You know why.
But, like, I don't.
Search your feelings. You understand.
I don't get taught by teachresses. You know, like, nothing else. The ER is not a gender-based thing. It's a person. It's a person that does a thing. They are a director. There's a person who directs.
Well, there are some people who eventually would like to see the Best Actor, Best Actress categories abolished and instead just have 2 trophies handed out to a field of 10 actors.
I think that that's also totally fine. But again, that means that all genders have to be treated equally in the sense that, like, one doesn't have to wear a literal dress. A truss at the end of it. Like, is it a fancy? Is it making it fancier? I just find it a little demeaning, honestly.
No, I get that. But that's all that we have for y'all this week. Again, please come and check in on the 7th. Come and listen to our episode next week. Sign up for the newsletter, all that jazz. And also follow our socials because I have an announcement that I'm hoping I'll be able to make within the next week or so. So stay tuned for that. Thanks as always for watching, and we'll catch y'all next week. Bye!
Bye.